Welcome back, everybody. Today I wanted to do a video on improving your doll photography. Now, I've been talking to a couple of you on Instagram recently about just focusing on your pictures a little bit more, and so I thought it would be a really good idea to do a video on a couple different ways to really improve your doll photos that are really easy to do. Now, if you don't have like a big expensive camera or a DSLR, don't worry about it because I'm just going to be showing you with a camera phone, so most of you have that. The three things that I want to talk about are light, aperture, and pose. So these three things will help you improve your photography for dolls just a little bit. So first with light, the main thing is you want to make sure that you have enough light, on your subject being your doll, and here I have Kanata. You want to make sure you have enough light on your doll when you're taking the photo. You'll notice that if you take a picture in a really dark area or it's just too dark in general on your subject, that your photo is not only not going to come out that well, but it's going to look really grainy. There's going to look like there's a lot of dots in it. So that's the first thing, is make sure you have plenty of light. And luckily today we're out here outside, so there's plenty of light. The second thing I want to talk about is aperture. Aperture is the mechanical device in the lens that opens and closes to let varying amounts of light into your camera. So the reason that's important is because aperture is the main factor in creating depth of field in your photograph. So basically what that means is when you have a smaller aperture, you're going to have what appears to be a greater depth of field, meaning more things are going to be in focus. When your aperture is much larger, you're going to have a thinner or smaller depth of field, and you're going to have less things in focus. In case that doesn't make a whole lot of sense, the reason this is important is because when you're taking pictures of your doll, it's mainly a portrait type picture. And with portraits, you want to have your subject in focus while your background is out of focus. This will create a nice image, a nice focus on your subject, and will blur everything out. So if you see photos where the background's all blurred out, that's what's going on. The aperture is large, creating a very shallow depth of field so that you're just focusing on your subject. Now, again, if you don't have a fancy camera, no worries. Today, I'm just going to use my cell phone and show you how you can do that in just a second. So I've got my subject Kanata here, and I'm going to show you how, using just your smartphone, we're going to control the aperture to give a shallow depth of field and give Kanata a little bit more focus in the picture. So let me go ahead and just set her up with this simple background right here. And her pose isn't that interesting, but we'll work on that in a second. So if your camera allows you to enable something called portrait mode, that's what you want to use for this. But if you don't have portrait mode, just use any old camera app that's going to let you control the aperture. Now, I'm using a free app called Focus, F-O-C-O-S, for this demonstration. And here I have my little aperture button, and it lets me choose a varying degree. I'm going to set it to 1.4. because that's the largest. Now, it's hard to say whether this is actually doing it on your phone, because you'll notice it actually creates a synthetic depth of field where it blurs everything out. Anything that's in focus is going to be clear, but you can see around the ridges of Kanata that there's some like wobbliness going on. So around Kanata, you're going to notice these rough edges, and that's because the aperture is not actually at 1.4. It's creating a synthetic depth of field effect where the subject will be in focus, and then it's synthetically or artificially blurring out the rest of the background. So just doing that, I'm going to take this picture, and there we go. And that looks much better already. For comparison, let me close that aperture up really small and take another picture of Kanata. You can see here the background is more in focus than before, and even though it's still all right, I think we can both agree that the one where the background is out of focus is much better. So just a simple recap, you want an app that allows you to control the aperture. Whether it actually does it or it's synthetic, it doesn't matter. It's still going to give you that nice blurry background while giving you a good focus on your subject. The last thing that I want to talk about is pose, because a pose for your subject can really bring your picture to life, or at least give it a little bit more character, which is really important. So right now, Kanata's not really doing anything too interesting. She's sort of just standing there like this, and dolls already are super stiff and rigid, so you want to make them come alive a little bit. Now, again, I'll show you a before and after. If we just take one like this, it's okay, but there's nothing really happening. It doesn't feel like she has any life in her. So we're gonna quickly add a pose for her. And if you can't think of stuff to do, the thing that I recommend is just check out a fashion magazine or like a catalog if you want to get some ideas for poses. Or the simplest thing that you can always do with these is just kind of bow out their hip to one side. And I find that kind of gives them a fun sort of pose. That's a little extreme. So you bow out their hip and then put their arms, you know, have their arms bend to their body, which might look kind of extreme right there. Or what I like to do is bend one of them and put the other one sort of in front like this. So already she's got a little bit more attitude. So let me take another photo. And there you can see, it feels more like a real person. Now I get that this is a doll, but at the same time, you want them to have a little bit more attitude. You want them to have some life to them. You know, it gives a little bit more creativity to the photo, it spices it up, and it just makes it more fun. So that's the last thing you can do, is just work on their poses a little bit. And like I said, if you can't think of what to do, bowing out the hip is always classic and always looks good. And beyond that, you know, if you just want to flip through a magazine or look up, you know, women's poses online or men's poses online, fashion poses, you'll get some really good ideas for things. Anyway, those were my 3 things that you guys can work on to sort of improve your doll photography really easily. If you like this video, please give me some feedback below. If you want other videos like this, let me know in the comments and I'll be sure to work on those as well. Before I go, I do want to say thanks to everybody that I've been talking to on Instagram and has been giving me, you know, ideas and things that they want to see on the YouTube channel. I look forward to making so much more content with Kanata and the other doll that we have. With Kanata and Kizu, yes. I look forward to making more content with Kanata and Kizu, and we'll see you again very soon, guys. Please subscribe if you haven't already to get notifications for more videos posting every single week. Thanks again. We'll see you soon. They may be dolls, but they're kind of a companion in a way, and even for me, Kanata doesn't feel just like a doll. Kanata's kind of like a small companion, right? And they have their own lives and personality, and because of, you know, their limited capabilities, it's up to us to really give them that life and personality and show it off to everybody. That's all.